Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining. This is Power Hug January, our healthcare user group for the Power Platform. My name is Scott Dwyer, joined by my colleague Randall. We are both solution engineers here at Microsoft, and we are bringing you this community for all Power Platform admins, makers, users inside of the healthcare and life sciences industry. Our goal here is to help promote knowledge and information about the Power Platform kind of from one another. So you can learn not just from the Microsoft folks and the potential bubble that we might live in, but learn from one another. We always are looking for presenters. That fourth Thursday of each month is our default. We are flexible on that, as you'll notice today if you check your calendar. Topics for those presentations. I encourage you not to be limiting, right? Bring it to us and we'll find a way to fit it. But governance, best practices, adoption, ROI, use cases, citizen development, strategy, organizational alignment, lessons learned. And all are welcome here if we can find a way to make it valuable for the broader community. We are open to it. We've got a set of links on the side there. We do run this group from a LinkedIn group that we'd love to see you in. If you ever have questions or want to make posts there to promote anything that you're doing, we encourage you to. We also put all of our sessions on YouTube after the fact. So at Power Platform Hug on YouTube, if you're interested in looking at our past sessions, and you can kind of pick and choose from those that might be pertinent to you, or maybe your industry or a specific topic. And if you have any feedback for us, we encourage you to use that aka.ms link as well. So thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you on future sessions. I'll have Randall talk about some upcoming events before we kick off this month's session.
All right, thanks, Scott. So next events we have coming up, we have our February 26th edition already planned, and so we're going to actually bring in a crew from Bristol Myers Squibb, who's going to talk about operationalizing Copilot from governance to scaled use cases. So they'll be talking about, establishing that strong governance, defining those zone models, implementing deployment pipelines and lifecycle management for agents, and then they'll be looking at those scalable use cases. And then as far as other events that we have coming up, we have some in February from our CAT team, so our Copilot acceleration team. There'll be, actually, I skipped one ahead. I'm sorry, let me go back. So we have our AI Apps and Agents Tour, February 17th and 19th in Atlanta and Houston. You can visit the registration link and go ahead and sign up for those. Those do sell out fast. So go ahead and visit that, aka.ms WAC AI Apps Tour. And then lastly, we have our CAT team doing some webinars across, I should say virtually through their webinar sessions, February 4th, 18th, and 25th. Again, you can go and register on those. If you want to look at past sessions or look at upcoming sessions, we have that at aka.ms/AI webinars. And again, this is the Copilot acceleration team. So if you're creating agents, you want to know how to use knowledge and agents or governance and then dynamic agents, some great sessions to look into, and then obviously get the recordings from those past sessions. But today we have an exciting session from UCHealth. We have a whole crew here that's going to talk about how they modernize their physician onboarding with OnboardMD and Power Platform. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Rachel. And Rachel, you can take it away and show everything you got.
Thank you, and thanks for the invite to share about this. We're really excited to share the great work that we've done. I'm Rachel Kalbinger, and I'm manager of our experience programs at UCHealth, and was able to be on this project and project manage it through to completion too. So it's really fun to come back and reflect on it and go forward and share the great work that we've done. But first, I'd really like to share a little bit about our organizations or our organization. We are spread throughout what we call the Rocky Mountain region. If you're familiar, we're from Colorado, but we also have some facilities in southern Wyoming, eastern Nebraska, and we range everywhere from Cheyenne, Wyoming down to Pueblo, Colorado, and as far west as Steamboat and as far east as Sterling. So it's about 250 miles in each direction that we cover for our organization. And throughout that organization, we have 15 hospitals and over 300 outpatient sites with a little over 36,000 employees and we deliver care to almost 3 million people throughout the year. We are specifically from our medical group, and in that medical group, we have over 1,600 physicians and APPs with us as well, caring for many of those patients as well. I know the forum for this is a healthcare group, and when we think about growing our organization and recruiting for open physicians and APPs, it actually comes with immense coordination, which I'm sure you all understand and know, and maybe have a part in that in your organization too. And we really strive to provide the best experience possible for everyone involved in that process. So the physicians and APPs that are onboarding, the people doing the work, and so on and so forth. And so about 4 years ago, we had a situation which was able to highlight areas where we needed to kind of improve and build upon the work that we already had. And so that situation was a provider wasn't able to start on time. And when we think about the clinical side of that, it means patient care was also delayed because their start time was delayed. And so it wasn't ideal for many reasons, as you can imagine, but it gave us the opportunity to really dive in and find out what root cause made that happen. And so what we found was there was really a fragmented process and version control issues between spreadsheets, calls, and emails of how we were managing onboarding and offboarding, and delays or incomplete tests often surfaced late in the process and then became an emergency. So instead of being proactive and resolving it when it's first occurring, we didn't actually know until really late in the process. And therefore, then it was really hard to have visibility on where each individual provider was in the process of onboarding or offboarding, which, like I mentioned before, was delaying patient care. We had errors in payroll and access to EMR, buildings, departments, etc. And so we also discovered there's a lot of tasks that need to be done, 93 specifically in onboarding and 64 for offboarding. To be done in a consecutive, simultaneous, different order, same order for each provider, but each of these teams are coordinating with them. We also discovered there was at least 18 teams involved, and sometimes a little bit more than that, up to 20 of our teams throughout the organization that needed really specific coordination, because work from one team is dependent on another team getting their work done. And so we were currently managing that through a call weekly to make sure that all those teams had the communication that they had. And we were spending up to 5 hours in meetings with at least one person from each of these 18 teams to coordinate that. And we still weren't able to get through all of our providers that were onboarding during that time. And so then it led to some of those confusing things. So what it boils down to overall is if you weren't on the call and hearing about every provider, you were behind, or you didn't have the visibility to the process, which that ended up being a really high opportunity cost spent in reconciling the work instead of spending time doing the work too. And so we decided to take action, and we pulled a representative from each of the 18 teams, got together in Denver because it's a local meeting spot or middle meeting spot for all of our people, and thought a little bit innovatively about we do have root cause figured out. So how can we improve this? What is going to be different in what we do? And it was really interesting. I remember this really powerful moment that we went through when we said, okay, well, what do we want to do different? Initially, the conversation kept circling around changing the format of the call or having a shared spreadsheet or really focusing on the tools that we already had and not thinking outside of the box on what we could deliver. And so then a question got asked of, if the call didn't exist or the spreadsheet didn't exist, how would we go about this process? And it was an uncomfortable moment in that the room was quiet for about a minute, which a minute is not that long, but it felt like an eternity in the moment. And then someone said, isn't there like an app or something that could make this easy? And so that's where this was born out of. And we said, okay, well, if we want to track down this process a little bit more and think about this a little bit differently, what would be the goal? And so the goal ultimately is replace manual coordination with the real-time accountability. And there's many other sub-bullets to that, like enable instant updates, provide early warning signs to solve for those root causes that we boiled everything down to in the previous slide. And so I love this picture on here, and I'm so glad that Brandon picked it out and put these slides together, because it really felt like this moment on top of a mountain. If you guys are hikers or have been outdoors, you know, like getting to the top of that mountain is just so rewarding in that moment. And yet, you know, you have to go back downhill and you probably have another hill in front of you that you're going to climb. And so while we were celebrating in that moment and like having this like aha moment, we also knew that we had a lot of work ahead of us. And so that's where I leave it with Adriana. I think, nope, I have one more slide, sorry. And we really, as we were in this moment, we were thinking, well, what do we have access to? What do we need to make sure that, you know, when we go down this track of creating an app or creating something that is more automated than what we have right now, what are our guiding principles also with this? And so we went and, or what's available to us. And so we went and turned over many, many stones, exploring and exhausting many of the options that are out there, like, you know, pre-designed apps that we could just buy off the shelf, and we could think about maybe doing something in Microsoft, think about doing something, just building it outside of this. What is the easiest and what do we need to do to make it easy on us as project people and project team, but also easy on our people for users too. And so we said, okay, well, what's available within our system? Well, we naturally fit into the Microsoft ecosystem, and we have Teams and Outlook and Power BI, and our people are familiar with that. So let's explore that. We also need something that's very adaptable and easy to enhance over time as we add more departments, add more providers, grow our organization. And also, we needed something that was feasibly financially. So one of our systems engineers heard about this grant from Microsoft that actually made this possible, and kind of guided us through selecting a vendor and getting our contract set up with them and everything like that too. And so that's why we went with Power Platform in all of these, because it made sense and it met all of these things that we set out to make sure was a part of it. So now I'm going to turn it over to the expert, Adriana, who is the brain behind the scenes and making sure that this is all connected and making sure that, you know, we can go forward with it. So Adriana, all you.
All right. So I wanted to go over a bit of the architecture and components. Lateetud, who you'll hear from later, of course, built the solution for us. We had a lot of hands-on training with them as we were building it and as we were launching it. And then me and some of the rest of my team, we maintain it for our group. So this image just gives you an idea of all of the Microsoft products that are combined to make this process work. So of course we have the Power App, we have Dataverse, Power BI, Power Automate, and then Outlook. For us, we have two environments, a QA environment and a production or live environment. We have 3 apps, one for onboarding, one for offboarding, and one for administration. And the general architecture is essentially a related set of apps with form elements that populate tables and which launch email notifications upon submission. Table data is available in the app records and also in our Power BI dashboard. Next slide. So a practical overview. So this would be the overview or the perspective of our end users. Provider data is entered into a viewer form that's on the app. The boarding type and the template determines the tasks that are required. We have essentially a series of tables that are all related. So we have templates, we have tasks, and we have task dependencies. And these tables also include which groups are notified under different circumstances for these tasks. They also include statuses and durations that indicate if a task is complete or is late. End users update task statuses. So that is the movement within the system. Task and provider statuses are displayed in our Power BI reports. And emails are sent based on activities such as when a task priority is high, a new provider is added, etc. The more technical overview of our solution, of our Power App solution, is of course the apps. That's the main interface of our solution. So this has the forms and the views, and this also has some JavaScript components behind it to help with automation. It is the apps essentially are driven or powered by underlying tables, and so these tables are what the forms and views are created by the tables schema. And then table relationships allow the lookup fields so tables can interact with each other. Power Automate Cloud Flows, we have, I don't know, about 30 of these, I think. So there could be all sorts of circumstances that require notifications to our end users or to leadership. So each of these Power Automates are customized using the elements from the forms and from the tables. And then finally, we have Power BI dashboards. And these are different, we have two different reports, one for onboarding and one for offboarding, that allow end users to easily check the status of providers, or when a task is delayed. There's a lot of custom formatting and color coding to help make that more visible.
We've experienced many wins since the implementation of the app. We've increased efficiency by decreasing time spent on weekly meetings from about 4 to 5 hours to now averaging 1.5 hours a week. The onboarding call previously included all providers that were in the onboarding process, but since the implementation of the app, we can now spend our time on the weekly meeting discussing providers starting within the next couple of weeks and those that are just entering the onboarding process. We also now have a better tracking of task completion. Prior to the app, we were managing the on and offboarding process using spreadsheets, making it challenging to reconcile accounts and share information. There's now less manual work. For example, for offboarding, there was no easy way to pull historical data or statistics. And so now the app allows us to easily pull past information when requested by other departments and leaders. The Power BI report shows us overall status of the providers on or offboarding status and allows us to export the data into Excel for easy share outs. We've also heard from many of our end users that the on and offboarding process is better than it was before the app implementation. They've expressed satisfaction with the functionality of the app and state that it is easy to use. Next slide, Rachel. So with that, we've also had some challenges with the app. There is a multi-step process for granting access to end users. We have to add the end user into the Microsoft Teams group, add them into the app, grant appropriate access, then add them to their specific grouping so they're assigned the correct tasks. There's also a multi-step process to update the functionality. To update a specific task in a template, we have to delete the task, create a new task, and add it back to the template. Some tasks are also in multiple templates, so the process has to be repeated multiple times to update one task. Any update to the app will only apply to those providers we add in the app after the update. It is not applied to providers already in the app. End users also receive notifications that may not be applicable due to certain limitations within the app build. All users within certain groups receive notifications on providers that do not apply to all members within that specific group. The app also does require someone with robust knowledge of Power Apps and database management. And then working directly in the prod environment creates custom layers that are not updated when you export a new version from the QA environment. And there will also be enhancement requests from end users.
Thank you, Jamie. As far as implementation into the new system, we used a phased approach over 8 weeks until we were fully integrated into the new application. Our pilot phase included 1 week of just the project team. We tested the usability, function, and then caught any noticeable bug fixes that we could at the moment. The second week, we included a small group of end users, and we mimicked the live application using real-time scenarios. Post these 2 weeks of testing, we gathered feedback from our end users and were able to make a few minor adjustments prior to going live. We provided multiple recording training sessions to all our end users to prepare for our transition. The application was launched live during week 4, and we ran both the old and new processes simultaneously for 4 weeks until we were fully integrated fully into the Power App. Over the course of transitioning, we were able to capture and fix several issues, developed a few minor improvements, and then successfully trained and integrated over 300 end users into the new application. Now that we're fully transitioned, the admin owners provide ongoing training for any new users, and we're able to provide a user manual and then a copy of those previously recorded training sessions. I'd say the transition overall was mostly smooth, and obviously we've been pretty successful now that we're 2 years into it.
Yay, so here comes the results. So looking at the slide ahead of us on the left side, here are some screenshots of what the Power App looks like. The left side is collecting the demographics for a provider. This is their start date, whether they're contracted or fully employed, how much patient hours they're going to be seeing, if hospital privileges will be required, and additional questions that our UCHealth asks. And on the right side, we end up looking at what a screenshot, what a task would look like. The tasks encompass department-specific tasks, where on the right side you can see the notes, and it gives a general description of what that task encompasses. Again, it's department-specific, so depending on your access, you'll only see the tasks that pertain to you and given that provider, with the end result being on the next slide, generating this spreadsheet that gives us an overview of every single department and whether these tasks have been started, completed, or were they pending. The highlighted yellow means that they're either in progress or not started, being an indicator of something we would go over on the call, but it's easy to read, easy to follow, and it gives a snapshot that allows us to go over all the material within minutes rather than spend an extensive amount of time and having departments report in on each task.
This new application also includes access to some Power BI reporting. These reports, they offer a real-time dashboard that displays the progress across each onboarding stage and can highlight overdue tasks that could jeopardize a provider from starting on time. These reports can be filtered or modified by provider, region, department, etc. We integrated a few standard reports during the build of the app, but have since expanded on them, and we've developed a few personalized reports since. They offer on-demand reporting, support system-wide consistency, and accountability, which has been a big win for us. And then these reports have been a great benefit, and we're continuously looking at ways to utilize them for the future.
Thanks, Janelle. My name is Kelly Hakowzik. I oversee provider recruitment for UCHealth and credentialing, actually. When we looked at the cost to get the project approved, obviously the leaders are going to ask how much it's going to cost, but we really worked to focus really much a lot on what we're going to save the organization with a more efficient process. So we really focused on the time. And I mean, again, Rachel mentioned, and thanks to Lateetud, we had a great, and Microsoft. It was awesome because we had a grant from Microsoft that Lateetud was amazing to work with, and it really reduced the amount that we had to invest in the app. And we used it, to show finance some of the things that where we would save. We really eliminated a lot of our some of our phone calls in regards to time. So the hours decreased. It got some leaders off the call, which it makes it so expensive to have those folks on there. And then the focus was that our providers did not have delayed starts. We got, them in front of patients sooner. And we also had a lot of people doing less rework. So we just listed all the ways that this really helped us as a system reduce cost.
So as proposed is what we expected as well. So for the ROI, so return on investment, we looked at kind of piggybacking is that significant reduction in high cost administrative labor. So we saw high salary leaders began shifting from administrative reporting to strategic and operational work. We also saw improved provider readiness, accelerate revenue generation, meaning that there was because of reduction in delayed stars, we also delayed start dates, my bad. There was a reduction in delayed patient access and reduction in lost clinical revenue. Ultimately also resulting in system-wide efficiency gains, where we streamline coordination across IT, credentialing, HR, Epic, recruitment, operations, and physician recruitment and onboarding. So it could all be held in one central location and housed as one source of truth as well.
So now that we have experience with this, we always look at other ways that we can use Power Platforms and different things. And some discussions that we've had in process too for how we could potentially use this is potentially in rounding. Y'all are from healthcare. We know it's a hot topic. We know that many organizations look to rounding because it's really highly effective in catching early warning signs for our patients. And so that's one use case that we're looking at. Another use case is sign up and engagement and internal build to not as intense or labor, thinking about all the applications involved in this, but with Power Automate and Outlook and Teams and sorts of things, we've actually created a process too for some internal programs to sign up and monitor engagement in some of our development programs as well. Functionally, we're really looking forward to specifying and specializing some of our communication channels through this. So some enhancements coming our way potentially that we're exploring right now are both of these. We're an innovative organization, so we really like to look forward of like, what's the next phase? How can we improve upon what we've already improved upon as well? And so, Adrienne, I know you were going to talk about this too. Some of what we've already done enhancement wise.
Exactly. So these are some of our previous enhancement requests for our current system. So we did end up building a tracking sheet. More enhancement requests, of course, came early on in our launch, and now they are a bit less frequent, but we did create a tracking sheet that tracks things like priority and technical difficulty for these requests. And so some examples would be, previously we didn't have a way to collect the clinic or add or remove clinics for providers. So we added that option that required some additional JavaScript writing to make that function. A recent one that we added was an end user had a particular task that was very subtask heavy. So we created a whole new table so that each of those subtasks could be logged as they were completed. So it could be anything big or small, but it's good just to know that it probably will happen, that you'll launch it, you'll use it, and then you'll realize that it needs something added. And I think that goes down to questions. So I'll turn it back over to Rachel.
Fabulous. And Scott and Randall, do we want to do questions now? I don't see any in the chat right now, but otherwise we can turn it over to Arbaz, who was wonderful to work with at Lateetud during this project too.
Yeah, why don't we hold questions to the end? Arbaz, you want to take it away?
Sure, yeah. I did have a question for Rachel, but maybe we can go for it afterwards. But my question was, Rachel, why didn't you guys call me when you were working on the app?
Well, we would have loved to.
All right, let me go ahead and share my screen and let me know when you guys can see it. Right, perfect.
We've got it.
Right, before I go into OnboardMD itself, I just want to quickly introduce Lateetud, who we are and what we do. We're based out of Ashburn, Virginia. It's pretty close to DC. We are in the automation and AI space for more than a decade now. We worked in insurance, finance, healthcare. Healthcare is our primary focus now, and we are implementation partners with Microsoft. We were Microsoft's AI Partner of the Year, runner-up for the year 2021. We have built numerous solutions within the healthcare space, but the one that we want to talk about today is obviously the onboarding solution, which is called OnboardMD. Before we get into the solution itself, before we talk about what we are what the solution is, let's talk about what we're trying to solve for and why this use case matters and why it's so important to us. So not sure how many of you know this, but on average, this is a national average, 120 days is what it takes to fully onboard a provider. That's all the way from when they receive the offer to the day the provider can actually start seeing patients and essentially become billable to the organization. Couple it with the fact that a particular provider generates 11,800, almost $12,000 net revenue per day. So every day your onboarding is delayed costs you about an addition of $12,000 of potential net revenue. Now let's take an example. Say you are a healthcare provider who's onboarding around 300 providers annually, and it takes you the average amount of time that it takes across the nation, which is 120 days. If you were to shorten the time that it takes to onboard by just 5%, okay, that is a mere 6 days out of 120. Just achieving that would net you an addition of $5.3 million in net revenue. And that's just a 5% reduction based on the math that we have here. We're not talking 25, 30, 45%, just a 5% reduction. So that's why this process is so important. And that's why clients of ours like UCHealth have prioritized solving for this use case. Now, what are our objectives? What are we trying to accomplish here? So we have 5 objectives, but the one we want to focus on is really the first one, which is we want to reduce the number of days it takes from the day the provider receives an offer to the day they can start seeing patients. We want to reduce the onboarding, credentialing, and enrollment. That's our primary objective. Because if we are able to achieve that, the rest of the objectives just happen as a byproduct. If we reduce the onboarding time, it obviously will accelerate patient care. It will obviously increase the revenue capture, as we just saw, alleviate the workload on the administrative staff, as well as minimize any provider frustration that providers that are being onboarded may face due to long enrollment periods and long onboarding times. So we're focused on the first objective, and it has a domino effect on the rest of them automatically. Now, our solution has been deployed to various organizations, number of our clients. This is just to highlight feedback from one of our clients with over 30,000 employees. In a year, they've seen an increase in $58 million worth of revenue. They've returned over 60,000 hours to the business operations, and they've seen 80% reduction in weekly calls relating to onboarding statuses. I believe similar results, the team at UCHealth, Rachel, Kelly, and the rest of the folks, they just mentioned the same, that's what they've seen as well since the application went live for them 2 years ago. And just as important are these metrics to us also is the user feedback, and the users, the end users who actually interact with the application, use it on a daily basis. They only have good things to say about it, that how it cuts the time, the work time that they usually spend by half, how they're glad that they don't have to sit on meetings all the time just to get updates on onboarding. So this is also something that it's really important to us, that we want to optimize for UI and user experience. And these are the kind of feedbacks that we look forward to hear from our end users as well. What is OnboardMD? So the solution that we just saw, what Rachel and the team at UCHealth showed us, you can think of it as the MVP, the first iteration of OnboardMD. That was before OnboardMD. So that's the core platform. OnboardMD's core platform is the ability to assign tasks, initiate them, assign them to the correct person at the right time, with the right deadlines, and ensure that they are escalated as needed. That's the core platform. So what OnboardMD is essentially that core platform, put it on steroids. That's essentially what we did. We added multiple components that encompass additional features to encapsulate the entire onboarding process, including pre-boarding, term sheet, contract negotiation, provider portals, all of that. And I'll show you each of the features in a bit. So the first one is the provider portal. This is a single touch point that a provider will use to complete their task that they need to complete as part of their own onboarding. So this could be document ingestion, this could be signing the employment contract. All of that is controlled through the provider portal. And I'll show you an example for this in a bit. Then we have optional modular frameworks like negotiation terms, contracts, enrollment, preceptorship, and more. I'll show you an example for this as well and what this means. The platform as a whole itself is also very extensible, such that it can connect to third-party applications like your IT systems like ServiceNow, HR systems like Workday, your credentialing systems. And the reason this matters is what if your onboarding team never had to create an IT ticket or a task in Workday for HR or for IT for any incoming providers? What if OnboardMD could directly create that task in those third-party systems and monitor them for completion and update back into the core platform, which is the task tracking tool, once that is completed? Because that is exactly what the solution does. And that's why this is where we get those efficiency gains, those 5% boost, that 10% efficiency gain that we're looking for when it comes to the onboarding process by automating simple integrations, right? Ease of administration. I believe Rachel and team did mention about the admin app. So the admin app is a section of the core platform that allows the business to modify certain things like modify tasks, who they're assigned to, when they're triggered, modify deadlines, create different templates for providers that are full-timers, providers that are contractors. So all of that can be modified directly from the admin app itself. So other than licensing and other needs that obviously do require IT dependency, most of the application is very easy to administer by the business themselves. Now, reporting and performance insights. So I just want to quickly mention that any application that's ever been made under the sun has always come with a dashboard. This is something that always happens. Nobody asks, nobody questions it. It's just the way it is, right? But reporting actually plays a huge role in achieving the onboarding objective, because for us to realize where that 5% efficiency boost is going to come from, the first thing we need to do is look at the onboarding process and understand where the bottlenecks are. You can't optimize for something unless you know what you're optimizing for. So for example, reporting can reveal insights to you that you never actually knew before you had OnboardMD. So you could find out that, oh, IT takes XYZ number of days for this task, right? How can we cut that short? Can we integrate OnboardMD with that system? Is there something that we can do in terms of either resource management? If a specific department is shorthanded, is there something we can do to provide them with more resources so that they can cut down their turnaround times on their tasks? And that's how we can unlock that 5%, 10% efficiency boost on the overall onboarding process. So that's where reporting comes in really handy, because first we need to identify what we are going to optimize for, and then come up with a strategy to actually optimize for it. So that's why reporting and performance insights also plays a huge role, absolutely important when it comes to OnboardMD. Now, let's take a look at an example, how a provider, in this case, Dr. Emily Carter, how is she going to go through the onboarding journey and how does it start? So OnboardMD automatically loads the details of the applicant directly from your ATS system. I believe this was not part of Uber when we worked, Rachel and team, but this is something that we've added. The solution itself can pull in the information of the applicant directly from the ATS system. The next step is for the HR to validate all of the candidate data. So the HR would go into the Uber admin app or OnboardMD admin app, and the HR would verify all of the demographic information, the contact information, email address, phone number, all of these details. Once verified, that's when HR is going to kick off, or rather OnboardMD is going to kick off 2 important tasks. Now, onboarding process as a whole has hundreds of tasks, right? But we are not concerned about that right now. At this point, we're only concerned about 2 tasks. One is we want to send the provider, Dr. Carter, a link to the provider portal. And second, we want to have HR create and negotiate the term sheet, right? Now, why are we kicking off 2 tasks when we can kick off everything all at once? because we don't know at this point if Dr. Carter is going to agree to the term sheet, if she is going to agree with the employment terms. She may say no. And if that's the case, there's no reason to actually involve the other business functions just yet. So that's why first OnboardMD will kick off these two tasks. The first is HR creates a term sheet. So this is where the term sheet functionality comes in. So this is one of those features that we talked about on the previous slide. So this allows you to configure all of the wages, salary, compensation structure, RE commitments, is it part-time, full-time, contract role, all of that can be configured here in this term sheet workflow. Once this is completed and this is finished, that's when OnboardMD sends the term sheet contract to the provider, Dr. Carter, and she will receive an email which will take her to the provider portal. So this is how she would log in. Notice that this provider portal is different than the actual OnboardMD internal solution. And as she goes in on her inbox, she will see the term sheet is already waiting for her. She can review the document, and if she chooses to accept, she can sign it via DocuSign. Once she has signed it, OnboardMD is actually monitoring for this DocuSign task to be completed, because once that's completed, that's when OnboardMD knows for sure that, okay, Dr. Carter is actually onboarding, so we need to engage other business teams and we need to alert them so that they can start working on their tasks. So these are all of the tasks. So I believe Rachel and team, these are the tasks that Uber is currently handling for your team, right? So this is where HR, IT, credentialing, all of them have their own tasks assigned to them. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So we're looking at some HR tasks that they would go into Dr. Carter's case, and there's a number of tasks that they have here, all the way from background check to setting up their I-9 and work dates, creating a number of tasks that they need to do from an HR perspective. So all of that is done through here. As they move forward in their progress of onboarding Dr. Carter, they can mark each of the tasks as completed. And yep, that covers the task that each of the department has to do from their perspective. Now, just as the departments have their tasks, Dr. Carter may also have tasks on her end that she needs to complete. For example, there could be documentation or any licenses or diplomas that she may need to upload. Now, notice here on this provider portal, she has multiple tasks. Now, why is this provider portal so crucial to the solution? Because this creates a single touch point between the onboarding team and the provider. So you have for any given information, the provider is only asked once. You don't have multiple teams like HR, credentialing, onboarding ambassadors reaching out to the provider for the same exact piece of information multiple times as the onboarding process goes ahead. So it creates a single touch point. And the goal here, we also want to actually reduce the burden that the onboarding process creates on the providers, because that will help us shorten the time it takes for onboarding, as well as ensure that there is no dissatisfaction with providers. Let's take a look at how the upload functionality works. So it does three things here after ingesting the document. The first is it classifies what type of document this is, right? So it'll identify that, okay, this is a DA registration, so it's a DA certificate file type. The second thing the solution does is extract all of the values that are part of the document and populate them on the screen. It also enables the user to modify the extracted values in case there were any mistakes. For, let's say there's a coffee stain on the document, right? Or a piece of hair or anything that could trigger an incorrect value extraction. Now let's see what happens if somebody tries to upload a KFC receipt, right? Because who doesn't like fried chicken, right? Now, notice that the solution immediately flags us that, okay, this, I'm not sure if this is a valid document type, right? So that way the user knows in case they're accidentally uploading something incorrect, but if they still want to go ahead and do that, the application does allow them to. and it will extract all of the data points that are part of KFC receipt. And this is one of the very interesting features. So instead of having Copilot for just the sake of having Copilot, we've been very intentional in terms of when we introduce an AI chatbot, right? And the reason we decided to introduce an AI chatbot here is because we've worked with clients and they've told us that providers usually come back when they're going through their onboarding journey. They may have questions that usually the onboarding team has to handle because obviously there's no other option, right? Who's going to answer that question? So what we decided was that it would be beneficial for us to have a Copilot chatbot embedded within the provider portal itself. So if the providers ever have any questions related to the onboarding process, and as you can see here, they may have questions like, when will I be able to start seeing patients? How long does this process usually take? What is the difference between credentialing and payer enrollment? So these are not just random questions. These are questions we've actually collected from clients who have received these questions. And these are genetic questions. These are FAQs that can be found in your standard operating procedures, or just questions that can be answered directly by a chatbot. And it's not something, and the goal for this is obviously to reduce the burden that it has on your onboarding team so that they can focus on the tasks that really matter rather than just replying to emails that come in from the providers that are being onboarded. But nonetheless, if the providers do have any questions that are not loaded onto the FAQs, they do have an option to leave a message, and this message will be sent over to the onboarding team, and the onboarding team would get back to the provider with the answers to their queries. Now, as this onboarding journey is progressing, as we're going through all of these steps, all of that is being monitored by the stakeholders using the reporting and analytics piece. And I just saw on the earlier presentation by UCHealth, it seems like you guys have implemented this in some way or other already. So it's great to see that, we're thinking alike in that direction. But yes, the reports and analytics functions allows you to drill down progress of onboarding at an enterprise level first. And this is how you can spot trends in terms of when or it is a specific month where onboarding delays are frequent, or is there a specific department like HR or IT where usually you have tasks that are at risk or delayed, right? Then you can take a look at the reports from a personal work capacity perspective in terms of which providers you are working on. You can see the tasks that are not started, the tasks that are actively under progress, at risk, delayed. And you can also look at reports from a per provider perspective. You can see for Dr. Carter, 3 tasks are completed, 4 are not started, some of them are in progress, and very minimal of them are actually at risk or fully delayed. So this is where reporting comes in handy, and this is what will allow you to find those bottlenecks so that you can try to solve for it. And you can, if your initial win was 5% efficiency, maybe you can take it to 15%, maybe 20%. So this is what allows you to do that, to identify those gaps, so that you can start chipping away at them and start working towards solving them and optimizing the process even further. And at the end, Dr. Carter gets onboarded and she can start seeing patients. So that's our onboarding journey. That's how a provider will go through OnboardMD. And that's how the solution actually makes the onboarding process completely seamless. Now, why does OnboardMD matter? So just to recap, what is OnboardMD? It's a single source of truth to track and monitor onboarding process across the enterprise. The purpose of OnboardMD is to trigger tasks at the right time, assign it to the right people, and escalate them whenever necessary. And the solution also helps you identify bottlenecks within your current onboarding process so that you can actually identify opportunities, automation opportunities, resource management opportunities that allow you to capture that increased revenue that you're looking for. It will simplify provider interactions using the provider portal, so providers are not burdened with same queries and documents all the time. It captures all of the documentations, all of the information that's required from the providers, and makes it available to all of the business functions at the same time. All of this results in our objectives, which is a very simplified onboarding process, a huge uptick in revenue and numerous hours of productivity returned to the business. Right. That is all from my end. I would like to open up for any questions or queries from, let me see, chat does not have any questions yet.
Yeah, I got a question, I guess, for the UCHealth team. You've started to use some of these processes, obviously, in the onboarding process. Any thoughts about offboarding, what that process looks like, and is this the type of thing you can extend into that, or are you using different processes for that, or how, what does that look like?
Our onboarding lead is Jamie, and she's on the line, so we'll let her answer that.
So we do use the app for provider offboarding as well already. So we implemented that at the same time as onboarding.
Great. And how is the, I guess, the overall experience? Obviously, some of the pros, cons of the review of the application requires some advanced knowledge of, say, Dataverse and table relationships. But as far as the team goes, in terms of getting up to speed with Power Platform, how has that experience been for you all?
I'll take that one. I think it was actually really simple. Kelly, add on to this too, but I've actually done several projects within this organization, and I always reflect on this one and like what went right, because it was so smooth and everybody was super excited about it. And yeah, we had some hiccups, let's be real, but training everybody on it, because we already use the Microsoft platform, I think like the usability of it was also similar and, intuitive in that respect too. So, and I think, Janelle did a fabulous job in training everybody, and Janelle and Jamie, taking that forward and introducing our new leaders to it. I think that process also has really helped with that too. Kelly, Janelle, Jamie, anything else you want to add, or Brandon too, because you work in this now too? Doesn't look like any additions.
So.
All right.
You nailed it.
Fabulous.
Well, Janelle makes it look really easy. And I think it did take a little bit of work. We had a little bit of pushback because it sent out more notifications than people were used to. They did not like it. We got quite a bit of complaints. I might have to have the team speak on that, because I think we did work at trying to eliminate that. Our end users felt there was, what would you call that, when you get like notification fatigue, and they were really upset. And it went on for a little while. So we cleaned that up. I'm trying to think what other kind of things. I don't know, Adriana, on the kind of the technical side, if there's anything else you want to add. The one thing I have to say, offboarding, we did not have like anything for offboarding. It was very, very minimal. So it went from like, 0 to 90 really fast. And now it is a very clean process. And so that was actually a game changer here at UCHealth from that side.
Great.
And nothing further on the internal workings of it. I guess it's worth mentioning that maintenance now is maybe once a month, maybe even once every 2 months that we need to go into it. So it's really driven by enhancement requests. These days it's never driven by something not functioning, which is great. So it is, once you're live and you're sort of stable, it is minimal maintenance.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to hear. Once you get to a stable state, being able to work, that's what you want to hear from an application, right? So that's great. Scott, you want to take it and close us out?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, thank you to all of our presenters from UCHealth. Thank you to Lateetud for helping us get connected with them. I love to see solutions where we're stretching Power Platform to kind of its limits and seeing how it can really be a tool for big, hairy, enterprise-wide problems, as well as a great tool for personal productivity. So just a huge thank you to all of you for taking the time to prepare with us to present today. It's truly we're very grateful, and we couldn't do it without y'all. One more plug for folks that might be interested in doing something similar. Please do get in touch with us, LinkedIn, find us on Teams, whatever works for you. We'll be back next month. It'll be here before you know it, February 26th, with BMS. So make sure to mark your calendars for that one. We also promote all this stuff on LinkedIn. So if you want a little bit more of that notification fatigue, feel free to follow us there. Find us on our forum there on LinkedIn, and make sure you check out some of the older sessions on YouTube as well.